This is a story of one of the biggest tragedies in all of gaming. And it's not something that you may expect when I say, oh, a big gaming tragedy. No, it's a damn Donkey Kong game. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. This game has always gotten just a bad rap. And allow me to explain it. So, back when the Wii U initially released, everybody was wondering what a certain developer was making for it. Retro Studios. They developed Metroid Prime 1, 2, 3, Donkey Kong Country Returns, and they helped out with Mario Kart 7. This was a developer that everybody respected. They seemingly churned out nothing but quality titles. And not just quality titles, like top tier titles, 10 out of 10s. And their range was unmatched. You were doing not only Metroid games in 3D, first person. They were able to translate a 2D side scroller into an FPS flawlessly. And not only that, Donkey Kong! After the Prime Trilogy, they were able to take a whack at the Donkey Kong Country series. So we had Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, 3, 64, and then that was pretty much it. The Donkey Kong series was in this weird limbo afterwards of nothing but spin-offs and experiments, but Retro Studios came in and revitalized the core Country series. And might I say, they did it brilliantly. Donkey Kong Country Returns is one of the best games on Wii. And then just a year after that, because Nintendo was struggling with 3DS development at the time, and they wanted to make sure they got the heavy hitter games out as soon as possible, Retro Studios helped out with the retro tracks in Mario Kart 7. And of course, I could kind of go with the flow of this story and be like, and the retro tracks in Mario Kart 7 were sublime! I mean, they were fine. They were retro tracks in Mario Kart 7. What else is there to say? There wasn't anything bad about them. There wasn't anything like, oh my god, jaw-dropping, but still, they were able to do Mario Kart tracks well. This company was unmatched in terms of quality, and everybody wanted to know what they were making for Wii U. I think the general idea is that a lot of people wanted to see Retro revitalize a new Nintendo series, Star Fox, F-Zero, whatever. Or they wanted to see them take a whack at Metroid again, after Metroid Other M kind of disappointed some people, and how the Metroid Prime games and Donkey Kong Country Returns were like some of the best artistically designed games of their respective consoles. Imagining a Metroid game in HD on Wii U, wow. But of course, nobody really anticipated they would do another Donkey Kong Country. Yeah, so I remember people were like kind of upset how at E3 2012, we didn't see what Retro's game for Wii U was. We had to wait until E3 2013, and it was finally unveiled. It was Donkey Kong Country again. That should have been the title, because that's pretty much just what it felt like. It's really surprising to me that, this was surprising to everybody. Let's think about this. The Metroid Prime trilogy did okay. I mean, Metroid Prime 1 sold pretty good, but after that, it just kind of felt like people were like, yeah, it's Metroid Prime again. Like, they just weren't as interested as the first time around. Donkey Kong Country Returns alone pretty much eclipsed the entire Metroid Prime trilogy sales. So, 3 Metroid Prime games was pretty much the equivalent of 1 Donkey Kong Country game sales-wise for Retro to do. Why was this a shocker to everybody? Well, I think at the time, we had more than enough 2D platformers going on Wii U and 3DS, so this just didn't really feel like it filled a niche. It filled a need for anything other than Donkey Kong Country to have another game. It's not that the game looked bad, it looked wonderful. It just wasn't really the game that you needed at that time. Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, a 3DS port of the original on Wii, just came out on 3DS in May. So a month before this was revealed, we already kind of had our Donkey Kong Country fix at that time. So to see that this is what Retro's been working on for the past couple years, yeah, that was a bit, it was underwhelming, it was disappointing, there's no getting around that. And you can tell that Nintendo knew people weren't super into this idea. I remember they posted a YouTube video on their channel where Reggie is talking to one of the heads at Retro Studios, and he's just like, hey, now a lot of people are just wondering, why another Donkey Kong? And the guy from Retro Studios is just like, well, you know, we had unfinished business with the ape. And that was it. That was all it was. It's just like, hey, we want to do more Donkey Kong Country games. You know what? Fair enough. It was scheduled to release in November of 2013. Weirdly enough, yeah, the big holiday title that year. Super Mario 3D World was also revealed at E3, but that was scheduled for December, which is just interesting. I mean, like, yeah, it still makes Mario a holiday title, but, you know, the big AAA title at that time was always reserved for November. So just interesting how they'd schedule it like that. But it wouldn't be scheduled like that for long. Nintendo announced the Wii U's price drop in August of 2013, and along with that, they showed off the new slate of release dates for their titles. And Mario 3D World and Donkey Kong swapped places. So Donkey Kong was then coming out in December, and it was also revealed that Donkey Kong would be retailing for only $50 instead of $60. Why that is, I'm not sure. Nintendo actually priced a lot of their games during the Wii U era at $50, which, yeah, it's something I didn't really notice at the time, but yeah, a fair amount of their games were $49.99. I'm not really sure why, because there's nothing necessarily about this game that doesn't scream, I'm not worth $60. But whatever. Shortly after that, Nintendo then announced that this release date was a lie. It was delayed. February 2014. Yeah, 2 release date changes. That shows a lot of confidence. Turned out that the game was pretty much done. It was ready for a 2013 release, though they pushed it to February, mainly for scheduling purposes. And when you look at Nintendo's Wii U lineup for the first half of 2014, it's pretty obvious why they did that. They had nothing. They had nothing until Mario Kart 8 in May of 2014. So yeah, push Donkey Kong to February. That makes sense. However, there was still more to reveal about the game. Most notably, a 4th playable character. At E3 2013, they revealed that not only was Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong in the game, but Dixie Kong as well. But they also said, hey, there's a 4th character. Originally, they showed off the box art for this game, and it only showed these 3 characters. However, online retailers were updated later down the line, and it showed Cranky Kong right there, implying, hey, Cranky Kong is probably the last playable character in this game, which was really cool. Dixie Kong was already playable in the older Donkey Kong Country games, but Cranky Kong was an entirely new beast. Just a cool concept to have him playable, as he is, lore-wise, the original Donkey Kong from the arcade games. You know, the whole Kong family is just so interesting, right? So that was pretty cool to learn, but that was still a leak. So eventually Nintendo had to spill the beans themselves. And there was a December 2013 Nintendo Direct. That would have been a great time to show it off. But they had the VGX Awards going on. This was kind of in that weird middle ground between the VGAs on Spike TV and the Game Awards as we know them now. Like, I believe this wasn't televised. It was online, but it was still kind of using that VGA-esque branding, though it was called VGX. For whatever reason. And this award show was like the most awkward it's ever been. Budget cuts beyond belief. It was just Joel McHale and Jeff Keighley standing in like a studio, just speaking to an audience of like 10 members and just revealing certain awards. It was very odd. But Nintendo was slated to appear there to show off something big. They had to clarify later on that, like, oh, Reggie's gonna pop by to show a new look at a previously announced Wii U game. And pretty much like every single bit of news that came out about this just lowered it more and more in terms of excitement. Reggie appears wearing a Metroid pin, of all things, right? When everybody's like, oh yeah, where's Metroid? At E3 2013, people were asking, where's Metroid? I don't want Donkey Kong, I want Metroid. So Reggie wears a goddamn Metroid pin when he's there to show off a fucking old-ass monkey in Donkey Kong. Yeah, so Nintendo's big reveal or big showcase at the Game Awards, the VGX this year, was Cranky Kong as a playable character in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. That was it. I just feel like they took any opportunity to get people pissed off about this game. You know, first off, it gets revealed, it's not what people wanted, and then second off, you hype it up as this big reveal and you show off Cranky Kong in the game. Well, Reggie's actively taunting the audience with a Metroid pin on his blazer. Yeah, suffice to say, I think this game had a pretty unfortunate marketing build-up where it just kind of felt like most people were asking, why does this exist? and just being underwhelmed by literally like everything they decided to do by showing this game off. But it came out in February 2014 to pretty weak sales. To be fair, it was on the Wii U, so I don't really think that has to do with the game's quality. Rather, it has to do with, that. But even the reviews were a little weird. I mean, most were unbelievably positive. Most were like, yeah, this is a phenomenal game. But some, I just like, sometimes you just wonder, like, what was going on here? So I may be a little biased because I absolutely love this game. But a lot of people say Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is too hard. Genuinely, I think the only thing that is too hard about the game is the fact that the boss fights have like no checkpoints to them. And that's not necessarily hard, it's just annoying. Like, they're very long, and when you die, because hey, this might be the first time you've played it, so you don't know the patterns that well, you die, you have to play through the whole thing all over again. It's just kind of lame. It's not too difficult. It doesn't feel like, oh man, this is unfair. It's more so like, oh, well, that sucks. But I saw a lot of people say how this game is way too difficult, and I feel like a lot of people that think that kind of play it how it's not meant to be played. They just kind of want to play it like a new Super Mario Brothers game and just run right through. But it's not a new Super Mario Brothers game. It's a Donkey Kong Country game. So you have to play it differently. I just recommend taking it slow, that first level, and just learning the game's mechanics. Learn how the game is designed, because once you know how this game designed its levels, you will understand. Like, there's no funny business going on in any level after that. Just take your time and just kind of like just play the game without thinking about Mario. And I feel like it's gonna make the game a lot easier, because I don't find these games like that crazy difficult. And that's not me trying to brag or anything. Like, have you ever seen me play any other type of game? It's scary. And yeah, Donkey Kong Country was difficult for me prior to, just kind of like actually replaying these games and just kind of like having it all click for me. But yeah, just forget about Mario, man. This is Donkey Kong, damn it! And my lord, you might as well forget about Mario, because Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is genuinely one of the best games of all time. It is amazing. Just 2D platform design perfection. It's really lame that the build-up to release was just kind of filled with non-stop just disappointment. How this game wasn't what I wanted it to be. And yeah, that is true. I felt the same thing back when this was revealed. I didn't understand why they did this instead of a Metroid. And while I do agree, looking back, that did the Wii U really need a Donkey Kong Country? No. It definitely could have used something like a Metroid, or even, like an F-Zero or something, a lot more than another 2D platformer. So while it didn't need a Donkey Kong Country, I'd argue it needed this Donkey Kong Country, because this Donkey Kong Country is the best of them all and is one of the best 2D platformers of all time. Like, get that new Mario, you crap, out of here. If the Wii U didn't need anything, it didn't need that thing. It needs this. Of course, sales-wise, it didn't need this. It needed Mario a lot more. But I digress. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is one of my favorite games of all time. And thankfully, Nintendo gave it another shot on Nintendo Switch, and they fucked that up too. Yeah, again, non-stop garbage with this game. So they put out the Nintendo Switch port, and like I said, this, $50. Nintendo Switch port, $60. What did they add? Okay, well, that's worth it, but still. Yeah, so this game got a price increase, not only after being $50 on Wii U, but it got a price reduction later down the line to $20. So man, this game just has always had it rough. I don't know what Nintendo was doing half the time with this thing. I feel so bad for it. But can you really blame anybody for being underwhelmed or disappointed by the aura of this game? And that's the true tragedy. This is one of the best games of all time, and it's never really been treated as such. So I recommend Nintendo try re-releasing this game again, and don't try to pull any funny business. Of course, me saying that means they are going to lace the disc with cyanide.